Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr. Yes, indeed, we're off here to another educational topic with me, your host, Imperial Dane, Master of Instruction. And we are off here to look at the 251 Halftrack, the Sonderkraftfahrzeug mit rechten Panzerwagen. The German transport and support platform of choice. In the Halftrack department, that is. Equipped with 2 machine guns which can do reasonable damage, by the way, though note, it's not something that's going to hold off the enemy on its own, but at the same time supporting your infantry, it can actually add a decisive element, killing units here and there, and able to sort of defend itself and overall give you a slight edge in those battles, while of course reinforcing your troops. That is one of the sort of the major assets to the 251 Halftrack. It allows you to reinforce troops at the front line. It can also be used to transport troops in, for example, quickly allowing you to pass through machine gun far flank behind while your troops remain safe, then appearing for a nasty surprise. And of course we also have the secondary half of this, which is the flamethrower upgrade. The Flammenpanzerwagen, and of course a quick note here, the cost of it is 200 manpower, 330 fuel, which is a bit, but overall none too shabby. But again, keep that in mind. Of course we have the Flammenpanzerwagen here, and note that requires tier 3 or battle phase 2 to actually unlock. Costs 120 munitions, allows it to burn away at any Bolsheviks or other enemies you might have on the battlefield. Not elsewhere though, sadly. But allows it to basically much more aggressively handle infantry compared to the light machine gun. And allows it perhaps to operate a bit more independent, but even then still you generally have better sort of efforts, supporting other things with it, generally infantry. And a sort of an idea, well, how should I employ my infantry in support? Generally, for example, you have an infantry squad here, maybe one here, maybe one here. Essentially, the infantry should sort of shield it, because the Halftrack itself isn't too durable. If it gets hit with an anti-tank grenade in particular, it's going to be caught a bit out in the open and be a rather easy target. So that's also something that is vital to keep in mind. And as of course you actually intend to sort of launch a Halftrack assault with units inside, of course, then go ahead and do that. And of course with the Flammenpanzerwagen, even then it's better to sort of keep infantry nearby supported. Of course the Flammenpanzerwagen can also be a response to a particular Soviet unit. And you might be wondering, well, what kind of unit might that be? And that would be the Soviet shock trooper. More resistant to bullets, even now with the March deployment update. The flamethrower still pretty much ignores that. Of course, if your opponent has units in buildings, the Flammenpanzerwagen can also be quite helpful in burning those out and showing them the error of their ways in opposing you. So in that department, the Flammenpanzerwagen also serves a few nice purposes. And of course, either way, as you gain more veterancy, for example, you can also keep it safer if that's what you want, because it actually gets a greater reinforcement radius. So in that department, in some cases, even when the situation is too dangerous to pull forward, if you have veterancy on it because you gained it through judicious use early on, you can still keep it reasonably safe and still have a reinforcement point for your troops that can move about and react to things as they happen. Sort of a little nice little detail there. I mean, it's something that some people forget. I mean, as it gains veterancy, it doesn't have to be as close to your troops as previously to actually allow them to reinforce. So try and keep that in mind, as that can give you a slight advantage here and there as well, if you remember, that is. And of course, I mean, overall, stay cautious when around conscripts again. I mean, conscripts are really one of the major sort of initial threats to the Halftrack, because again, the anti-tank grenades can really sort of limit mobility, and that means it's in trouble. Even as a Flammenpanzerwagen, where the weapon can sort of swing around in greater arcs, it will still be in a bit of trouble, as the Halftrack's one of its greater assets is its mobility currently, and once that's all, I mean, it's not going to last long. So very much keep that in mind while utilizing the Halftrack. Otherwise, things could get ugly. Very ugly indeed. And of course here, no, it does have a nice range on it. And there we go. In this case, it was a pioneer squad nearby. Flammenpanzer burning away and rather convincing the Russians that there are other places that they would rather prefer to be. In this case, it doesn't get any kills, but still does some nice damage, and it all again forces the opponent back. But overall, I mean, compared to previously, I mean, you don't actually have to get the flamethrower upgrade for the Halftrack to sort of actually do any damage. That's a huge step forward.
We have secured the sector.
So, I mean, you can keep that in mind, but again, generally you don't want to operate on its own. It's not really that kind of weapon. It's sort of a weapon you want to support your infantry. It's really there. It sort of excels when it's working together with your infantry, reinforcing, providing fire support, providing cover or transport. If you can remember that and use that, you'll generally find yourself getting a lot out of your flamethrower or just regular half-track. And of course it's also just nice for some sort of quickly forcing out support positions and the likes. But again, not very durable. Not very durable.
Territory secured.
So with that in mind, that is the Propagandacast there for today. Sort of a quick brief overview here of the half-track. Sort of explaining some of the parts of it, showing off more of the Flampanzerwagen bits, but overall, I mean, what I said sort of generally applies throughout usage of the half-track. So try and keep that in mind while using it and sort of try to get the most out of it. Again, generally, rule of thumb, if possible, I mean, when it's, for example, with machine guns, screen it with infantry if you actually intend sort of to attack with it, and not have troops transport sort of use its speed, so that way sort of deploy your troops in an advantageous position. Otherwise, in that case, you don't have to screen it because then you want to sort of speed it away. Otherwise, screen it with infantry, have it provide fire support for them, because in that way, it generally gives you a bit of an edge in those infantry engagements. With a Flampanzerwagen, not a bad idea either, but otherwise you can afford to be a bit more mobile, aggressive, and not a bad idea either to sort of have some pioneers nearby in case anti-tank grenades go off. Anti-tank grenades and anti-tank rifles early on are sort of the major threats. Also, don't ignore the veterans either. A lot of people tend to ignore the reinforcement radius bonuses, which again can allow to sort of, as things go on, if things become more hazardous, to just have you sort of place it in a rather good spot and reinforce your troops from a safe position. So, this is Imperial Dane signing off and hoping you learned something from today's episode.